And so that's just more of a general look at the life intention for this person. But I mean, so that theme will show up in all sense of the word for all business relationships, personal relationships, etc. Anything to do with an equal exchange, and that especially is considered with marriage partners. And so it's not a curse that says you can't, have an easy relationship. It just means that it's going to be true. If you're going to have an equal relationship, it's going to be much more equal than someone else could attain, assuming that you're staying true to your ideals and what you are. And as long as you're recognizing when it's not true, then we know that there's a certain alignment that's occurring there. So that's a good sign as well. The sun also in this case is conjunct the north node. Okay, so that north node is also in the 7th house. When the sun is conjunct the north node, this is a sense of direction we're headed. So there is even more so in this case a sense of this being the direction of the individual, a sense of having to establish individuality in order to engage in very important relationships. Very important relationships. This is not an individual who is going to be able to go on their own. And that's not a negative thing either. The idea is to just get rid of the sense of codependency in relationships and improve that and compile a sense of independence within relationships. And when that's developed, this is someone that can really join forces with other individuals in marriage and business, etc., and really be themselves with that other person without having to compromise so much. And so that's a really great, I guess, promise almost, if you want to think of it that way, as looking at it as a promise in our chart, but only if you do the work. You can always choose to stay in codependencies. You can always choose to stay in power imbalances. That's completely up to you. But the life direction will never really take hold as intended without some sense of boundaries and independence before heading in that direction. So I hope that clears up some things with respect to that. In terms of relationships now and like what's going on now and how that could be affected, and one thing that really jumps out at me is, for one, Venus, which is the planet of relationships and relating and things like that. That planet here is in the 6th house, so along with Pluto. You can see it down below that line there. And it's in Libra, and Venus rules Libra, and Venus in Libra is a Venus that says, I love to be in relationships, etc. And so it's hard to be single as someone with Venus in Libra. And especially you combine that with that sun in the 7th house and that intention to bond, that intention to form strong, important relationships. There's definitely an urge here to do it. And so it makes it more challenging to go through that aspect. But the idea here is that with Venus in Libra, there is also this love of creativity and aesthetics and things. That'll come more to play when we talk about the career and that creative yearning that she expressed earlier in her email to me. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit later. But just in terms of Venus and relationships, what's going on with that planet Venus, which is located at right around 0 degrees Libra, so right at the start of Libra. Now, that's a really, really potent part of the chart right now for everybody. So if you have planets at the beginning of Libra, Capricorn, Aries, and Cancer, those are the beginning of the cardinal signs. These are the areas that are really, really under strain over the next couple of years. And so 2010 is really, really all about a lot of growth in these areas. So with Venus there, we can say for this individual, there's a lot of growth going on right now in terms of relationships, in terms of relating. So a lot of the themes that we just talked about earlier with the power struggles and the independence versus codependence, all these things are really on the front burner right now. They're very obvious themes in her life. And so when we look at this, first of all, Pluto in the last couple of years, 2008, 2009, so it's just kind of ended. The Pluto part of this is over, but we're going to talk about Saturn and Uranus and there's other planets that are part of this as well. But that Pluto part was the first part, and that was 2008, 2009. And Pluto, like we said earlier, is the ruler of Scorpio. It's all about transformation and adjustments and change and things of that nature. And Pluto was forming a square or a 90-degree angle to that natal Venus at 0 degrees Libra around 2008 and 2009 for that time period. So it would have been, excuse me, a time period of power struggles in relationships, very clearly that would state that. But the intent of this transit is to understand and learn about the different sides of power, okay, and to learn about your own control and others' control. And so you needed, or I should say, she needed power struggles in this certain situation in order to experience this, in order to come to some realization about power in her relationships, okay? And so it makes sense that she was in a relationship in 2009 that had a lot of power struggles in it. It was for the best, if you want to look at it that way. And this Pluto was kind of priming this Venus side of her, this relationship side of her that really needs this development. And what's coming right on the heels of that was Saturn, just this past fall, in about October of 2009. Saturn came and made a conjunction with Venus. And this conjunction is going to last roughly from that October 2009 through about June, basically early to midsummer 2010. With Saturn on Venus, this is a time period, it's a time for planting seeds. It's a conjunction. It's time, and it can feel like things are really held back, and a lot of it could be her holding herself back. It's a lot of self-resistance with regards to relationships. So not going forward, holding back, reviewing, recognizing a need for a new organization with that realm, in this case, the realm of relationships. A new approach needs to be made relative to her experience. And so she's experiencing this right now, as we speak, and again, through early to midsummer now, as a time of saying, no, this doesn't work for me. But what does work for me? And not really having those answers right now. But the idea is, sit with it. You don't want to move forward in relationships if you are not, if you're not in one right now. It isn't a time to really move forward. It's time to really get serious about what relationships mean to her. That's the most important part of this transit. And so it occurred right as the Pluto part was ending. So the fall, I imagine October, fall of 2009 was a time period maybe when that relationship started to come to an end. It was the power struggle part is over, that dance, she learned enough from it, and then Saturn comes in and says, all right, in all seriousness, this doesn't work for me. But also in all seriousness, I don't know it does. But let's sit on it. Let's give it some time. That's the kind of time frame she would be in right now. That kind of, or I should say, mind frame would be one of sitting on it and waiting a little bit. And so again, this will last until early to midsummer 2010. But before this is over, then the planet Uranus is going to come in. Uranus is this planet of surprise and unconventionality and doing things differently and things like that, and unpredictability as well. So this is going to come on in about late May, early June. So right at the end of the time that Saturn is finishing up with getting serious and restructuring things and, lack of flamboyance and that kind of thing. All of a sudden, late May, early June comes in, and this Uranus part will last until next spring of 2011, so about a year or so. Uranus comes in and opposes Venus from the opposite side of the chart in Aries, and it's all about surprise. It's all about, I didn't see this coming, so people coming into her life. All of a sudden, quick starts to new relationships might occur around this time. So this time period of about late spring, early summer 2010 through about late spring 2011 could feature several different opportunities for people coming into her life. And people that are different, very different people from who she's used to. And that might be a pleasant surprise. And a lot of this might have to do with this work she's been doing on herself to balance this idea of independence within her rather than just developing more codependencies, etc. And so this time period is definitely very important for getting a sense of what works for relationships and preparing for this kind of, more of a potentially fun time coming up late spring through the following late spring in 2011. And along with that, when Uranus is in early Aries opposing Venus in early Libra, Jupiter is going to come and meet up there in June. And so June 2010, so we got about 3.5 months, as today's March 1st, 2010, that I'm doing this. And by about mid-June 2010, I think there could be a surprise in that relationship realm. And it'll be right at the time that she's ending that whole serious period.